My first guest is the president of Walser Wealth Management, Rebecca Walser. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
So you're going to tell me some good news about the stock market, right? I mean, our 401ks, our IRAs, they're all healthy and wealthy and wise.
You know, this has been the most challenging 12 months of my life in professional management because you hate to get on shows and be negative and be hyperbolic. But, you know, Andrew, we do have a global reckoning coming, and there's nothing that's going to stop this reckoning. The U.S. dollar is in great jeopardy, and we will have an impact on the U.S. financial markets. And so we are very bearish at this time, and people should really prepare for that.
That can't be true. That's not what Joe Biden says. Joe Biden says the economy is doing great, that everything is just fine. I mean, Jamie Dimon came out the other day and said inflation is eroding, billions of dollars of life savings amongst millions of people. But Joe Biden says everything's working. So how could anything else be true?
You know, I think that the administration needs to put their best face forward, even if it's false and it's not true. I hate to, be the bearer of bad macroeconomic news, but we have a global realignment of countries, of reserve systems, of everything we've known to be true for the last, certainly since 1974, but certainly for the last 50 years. And I would even suggest maybe going back to 1913 when the Federal Reserve was chartered as a private corporation.
Well, we're going to be getting to a story a little bit later in the program that China is now making an oil treaty with Saudi Arabia to trade in the yuan. So they're cutting out the United States. I mean, I thought Joe Biden went over there and secured a great deal to bring down the price of oil in this country.
Well, apparently MBS and Biden were working on some kind of Britney freedom deal. That was what they were talking about. It doesn't seem like they were talking about oil. But Andrew, on all seriousness, the BRICS nations have been working for 20 years towards an alternative to the dollar as a global reserve, and they are ready to go. And China announced last month that Saudi Arabia announced last month that they view China as their #1 economic partner, bar none, that they look at the United States. This was an announcement, a pronouncement out of Saudi Arabia. They look at the United States as any other economic partner, no different than anyone else. And of course, we know that they signed a security agreement with Russia in 2021 after the United States pulled out of Afghanistan so abruptly. And so really, if you look at what Saudi Arabia has done without officially announcing moving to BRICS yet, they have basically said that's what they're doing. And that, of course, means they would eventually, once it goes official, release their OPEC producing nations to sell crude outside of the U.S. dollar. And that will be a massive problem for the U.S. dollar.
Is there anything as a wealth manager people can do at this point? I mean, inflation seems to be unending, right? It's not transitory. And what is happening now is we're creating a two-class system. The ESG investment firms like Vanguard and BlackRock are basically saying, well, we're going to put your money where our priorities are, whether or not they profit you. But don't worry, we're saving the world. I mean, really kind of what we're seeing is Biden telling BlackRock, telling Vanguard, telling some of these big firms, this is where you should invest because this is where our regulations are going. So get your people invested in windmills and solar farms because, of course, we can power the modern economy with pinwheels and mirrors. But if that doesn't work out, Larry Fink will be fine. Everybody else will be screwed.
Yes, I mean, this is exactly right. In fact, there's a law right now that is moving. It's a bill that's moving through Congress that basically changes the definition of a fiduciary obligation. Because, Andrew, fund managers have a fiduciary obligation to maximize returns. And so this is a new concept that in lieu of maximizing returns, we might also want to have a social, governance type of mentality or purpose for a fund. And so they know that that does not meet the fiduciary obligation of maximized returns. So they are promoting a change to the fiduciary standard that would allow other factors like ESG factors and considerations to be taken into account. This is a complete difference. And this is why you see Florida basically pulling the $2.3 billion from their Florida retirement system from BlackRock. And you also see groups pulling away from Vanguard for the exact same reason. I'd say BlackRock and Vanguard are the two largest on the forefront of ESG funds. And this is a sea change moment because we kind of have Americans locked into 401ks. And if now these 401k fund managers can just, basically pursue social justice purposes as opposed to profit maximization, then people need to consider that and understand the consequences to their retirement accounts.
So just without giving away too much tradecraft and what your clients come to you for, what could the average person do at this point? What can we do?
Yeah, we're really bearish on the short term and the very, very short term of this market. We see some indications, for example, the global yield curve inversion that hasn't happened since 2000. We see the 3-month and the 10-year grossly inverted in the United States, which is a big alarm. So what I would say right now is you need to look at hard asset classes. I consider these what we call bridge assets to get us from the system that we're in to the new system of multipolarity, different countries moving to different reserves. It is going to be problematic. It's going to be painful. It's just that. So what kind of hard assets are we talking about? Real estate is usually the top of mind for people, and I'm not opposed to real estate, although I do see it coming down in value. What I see going up in value specifically, Andrew, because we're going back to an organic, true level of valuation through this process, would be our metals, gold and silver.
I like gold and silver. I started buying precious metals back in 2009. You know what else I bought? This might sound crazy to some people. I started buying Fort Knox brick-sized copper bullion blocks because I was like, they take up a lot of space, but you know what? Copper keeps going up in value. No, I agree with you. I know that we've been told by the Gen Z nerds get into crypto, but gold has been there since the Bible, so I don't think it's going anywhere. I mean, granted, if you're jumping on the train now, it might be a little more costly than if you did 20 years ago, but I agree with you.